was closing the store at 3:47 a.m. when the register showed one customer still inside. The problem was, I had already locked the doors. This happened when I was working the night shift at a small convenience store on the highway. It stayed open 24 hours. But after 2 a.m., almost no one came. Most nights were silent, just the hum of refrigerators and the flicker of lights. I worked alone. No cameras outside, just inside the store, and one old system that tracked how many people entered and exited. That number should always match. It started on a Thursday night. At 2:58 a.m., the system beeped. Customer entered. I looked at the door. No one came in. I checked outside. Empty road. No cars. I frowned, but ignored it. Probably a glitch. At 3:12 a.m., it beeped again. Customer exited. I didn't see anyone leave either. That's when it started bothering me. Because the count should have been 0, but the system showed one customer inside. I checked the aisles, slowly, one by one. No one there. I even checked the storage room. Empty. I went back to the counter, tried to ignore it. At 3:33 a.m., the lights flickered. Once, twice, then stabilized. And that's when I noticed something on the monitor. Camera 4, back aisle. There was someone standing there, perfectly still. I leaned closer. The camera quality was bad, grainy, but I could see enough. It was a person, facing the camera, not moving. I slowly turned my head toward the actual aisle. Nothing there. Empty. I looked back at the monitor. Still there. Same position. That's when my chest started tightening, because I understood something. It wasn't in the store. It was only on the camera. Then it moved. One step forward, still facing the camera. I grabbed the phone, tried to call my manager. No signal, just static. Then, the speaker crackled, and a voice came through. My voice, still inside. I dropped the phone. The screen flickered again. Now every camera was showing the same thing. That figure, standing in different aisles, at the same time. Not moving, just watching. At exactly 3:47 a.m., the register printed a receipt. On its own, I picked it up slowly. It said, "Last customer not checked out." My hand started shaking. Verzener. Because that meant Verzener. It was still inside. Verzener. And then, I heard it. Verzener. Footsteps. Verzener. From behind me. Verzener. Slow. Heavy. Verzener. I didn't turn around. Verzener. I couldn't. Verzener. The steps stopped. Verzener. Right behind me. Verzener. Close enough that I could hear breathing. Verzener. Then, my voice. Verzener. Right next to my ear. Verzener. You didn't check me out. Verzener. I ran. Verzener. Didn't lock the store. Didn't grab anything. Just ran. Verzener. I didn't go back. Ever. Verzener. But a week later, my manager called me. Verzener. He sounded confused. Verzener. Why did you leave the register open? Verzener. I told him everything. Verzener. He didn't believe me. Verzener. Until he checked the system. Verzener. Then he went quiet. Verzener. And said something I'll never forget. Verzener. The customer count. Verzener. Still says 1. Verzener. but even right now. And sometimes, when I drive past that store at night, I see the lights on, and someone standing inside, waiting. I worked the night shift in an office building with 8 floors. So when the elevator stopped at floor 9, I knew something was wrong. This happened in late 2024 when I got a security job at a corporate building in Gurgaon. It was a normal place during the day, but at night, it felt completely different. Empty halls, lights turning off automatically, and silence that felt too heavy. My job was simple: sit at the desk, watch cameras, do a patrol every hour. That's it. For the first few nights, nothing happened, until the elevator started acting strange. It began on my 6th night. Around 2:41 a.m., I heard the elevator open. That wasn't unusual. Sometimes it reset automatically, but something felt off. Because no one had called it, I checked the panel. It showed floor 9. I frowned. Because the building only had 8 floors, I walked toward the elevator slowly. The doors were open. Inside, the light was flickering. I stepped closer and looked at the button panel. There it was, a button I had never seen before. 9. It was glowing. I didn't press anything. I didn't move. Then the doors closed, on their own, and the elevator started moving. Up, past floor 8. And then, it stopped. Silence. For a few seconds. Nothing happened. Then the doors opened. I couldn't see inside from where I stood. Just darkness and something else. A faint sound, like breathing. I stepped back immediately. Didn't go closer. Didn't check. After a few seconds, the doors closed again, and the elevator came back down. When it reached the ground floor, it opened, empty, like nothing had happened. I told myself it was a system glitch. It had to be. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, 2:41 a.m., the elevator opened. Floor 9. This time, I didn't go near it. I stayed at the desk, watching from a distance, and that's when I saw something inside the elevator. A shadow, standing in the corner, not moving, just there. The doors closed again, and it went up. I didn't follow. I didn't want to. But on the 3rd night, something worse happened. At 2:41 a.m., the elevator didn't go up. It stayed open, waiting. And then, I heard it. A voice. From inside, my voice. Come in. I froze. Didn't move. The voice came again. Softer. Closer. You're already here. That didn't make sense, because I was standing outside. But then, I looked at the security monitor, and my stomach dropped. Because on camera too, the one facing the elevator, I was inside, standing in the corner, not moving, looking straight at the camera. I slowly turned back to the elevator. It was still open, empty, but I knew it wasn't. I stepped back, and that's when the door slammed shut. The elevator moved again. Up, fast, faster than before. It passed floor 8 and stopped. For longer this time, much longer. Then suddenly, all the lights in the building flickered. For a second, everything went dark. When the lights came back, the elevator was open again. But this time, something had changed. The button 9 was still glowing. And next to it, another button, one that wasn't there before. It had no number, just a symbol. Something scratched into the panel, and it was blinking. Slowly. I didn't stay after that. I left before my shift ended. Didn't even sign out. The next day, My supervisor called me. He sounded annoyed. Why didn't you log your exit? I told him I left early. He paused, then said, "No, you didn't." I felt my chest tighten. "What do you mean?" He said, "The cameras show you getting into the elevator at 2:41 a.m. and going up to floor 9. I didn't say anything because I never stepped inside. Then he added one last thing. "We've been trying to call you, but your ID is still active inside the building. And sometimes, late at night, I still get notifications. Elevator moving. Floor 9. This is based on a true story. I didn't believe it when I first heard it, until I saw the footage myself. If you're watching this alone, you might want to turn the lights on. This didn't happen to me directly. It happened to my cousin in 2024, when he was working a night shift security job at a small office building outside Delhi. He's not the type to exaggerate things, not someone who believes in ghosts or anything like that. But after that night, he quit his job without even collecting his last paycheck, and he has never talked about it the same way again. The building wasn't completely empty. During the day, it was a normal corporate office, but at night, it turned into something else. Half the lights were turned off. Entire floors were locked. Only one section stayed active, the ground floor reception and a few server rooms. My cousin's job was simple: sit at the front desk, check cameras, do a patrol every hour. That's it. The first week was completely normal. Nothing unusual. Until one night, at exactly 3:06 a.m., the phone rang. There was no reason for it to ring. The office line was only active during working hours. Still, he picked it up. "Hello?" No response. Just static. Then, a voice. His voice. "Check the third floor." He froze, because the third floor was locked. Always locked. No one was allowed up there at night. He hung up immediately, tried to ignore it, told himself it was some kind of prank or system glitch. But then he checked the cameras. The third floor camera was on. It wasn't supposed to be. That floor had no active cameras. But there it was. A live feed. A dark hallway. Flickering lights. And something at the far end. Standing still. He leaned closer to the screen, trying to understand what he was looking at. The shape moved, slightly, and stepped forward. It looked like him. Same height, same uniform. But the face was wrong. Not clear, like it wasn't fully there. He stood up immediately, heart racing. He should have stayed at the desk. He knows that now, but he didn't. He grabbed the keys and went upstairs. The staircase felt colder than usual. Every step echoed louder than it should. When he reached the third floor, the door was unlocked. That had never happened before. He pushed it open slowly. The hallway looked exactly like the camera feed. Same flickering light, same silence, but it was empty. No one there. He took a few steps forward, and that's when he heard it. Footsteps behind him. He turned around instantly. Nothing. Empty hallway. Then the lights flickered. For a second, everything went dark. When the lights came back, someone was standing at the other end, facing him, not moving. And this time, he was sure it was him. Same clothes, same face, but smiling. A slow, unnatural smile. Then it spoke, without moving its lips. "You came." He didn't respond. He couldn't, because at that exact moment, his phone rang again. Same number, office line. He answered it without thinking, and heard himself, standing behind him. "Don't turn around." He froze, because he hadn't moved. which meant something else was standing behind him, breathing. Close. He ran. Didn't check. Didn't look back. Just ran down the stairs, locked himself in the security room, and watched the cameras. Every single camera feed was showing him standing in different parts of the building at the same time, not moving, just watching. At exactly 3:33 a.m., all the screens went black. The phone rang one last time. He didn't answer, but the voicemail came through anyway, and when he played it, it was his voice. Calm, clear. I'm still here. He quit the next morning. Didn't tell anyone why. But a week later, the company called him. They asked if he had returned to the building. He said no. They paused, then said, because someone using your ID logged in last night at 3:06 a.m. And the worst part is, the building is still open, and someone is still working the night shift.